Wood-Mizer has a brand new sawmill that has just hit the market, the LT15 battery-powered sawmill. We need to talk about it. So Wood-Mizer has a brand new battery-powered sawmill out. Now before I get too far into any of this, there's one thing that I have to say, and that is this. As many of you know, I have been a big Wood-Mizer supporter over the years. My entire channel has been not only supportive, but almost flat out promoting Wood-Mizer for many, many years. And so, I am a Wood-Mizer fan. Big time. But, in light of all of that, you need to know that I have never received a dime, a dollar, anything from Wood-Mizer. Not a hat, not a t-shirt, for any of the promotion that I've given Wood-Mizer over all of these years. And so, since I'm not bought and paid for by them or sponsored by them, I don't have to try to feign excitement over any of their new products, which means you can trust me to get a realistic perspective of what a professional sawyer thinks about the new battery-powered sawmill. Having said all of that, I have a whole bunch of notes that I've prepared. Now, I wanted to do my research on this new mill before I got too far in, so that I knew exactly what I was talking about. And so what I want to do for us all is first of all go over some of the features and benefits of the new mill, and then I want to go over sort of their advertising strategy, and then lastly I want to talk about whether this sawmill is going to be good or bad. What are the benefits and the negatives of a mill like this? Now just so you know, if you want to see all of the features and benefits that Wood-Mizer is promoting, you can go to their website, obviously, and look at the LT15 battery-powered mill on there, or you can watch their recent promotional video, which I'm going to have a link for in the description box below. Of course, my opinions are only one thing. I'm really interested in your all's opinions. That's what that comment section is for at the bottom of the page there. And if you've never been to my channel, please go ahead, like this video, and subscribe. So first things first, let's talk about some of the features and the benefits of this brand new battery-powered sawmill. First of all, you simply get features on this mill, on the LT15 battery mill, that you do not get on the standard LT15 sawmill. Features such as a power feed that goes up and down, a power feed that goes forward and reverse, a program called SetWorks. Well, what is SetWorks? Well, it's simply an auto measuring device. You don't get that standard on an LT15. You have a hand crank that dials the height up and down. Really cool technology. Speaking of cool technology, you have advanced auto head return or advanced head return. What does this do? Well, you can tell the machine that if you're cutting above the log and you want to cut several boards at once, that the head of the machine will automatically return up to its highest point and allow you to go over the entire log before it drops all the way down and makes the next cut, whether that's 3, 4, 5 boards, whatever down. That's a really, really cool feature that you pay good money for in the higher end mills. Also, it has a feature called Smart Feed. So Smart Feed is adaptive technology. It measures the strain on the system, and then it will change the feed speed to give you the best cut that you can for the power that is available on the mill. That is a really cool feature. Other cool features. The operator's panel is very clean and it's very easy to understand. Everything is clearly marked and labeled. It's very, very easy to see what you're doing, and there's not a cluster of different buttons on there. So everything is right on the left and right hand. It's very, very easy, it seems, to operate. Of course, one of the things that the LT15 has always been known for, and is no exception to the new battery-powered mill, is the way that the head opens on the front for blade changes. The entire head on this battery-powered mill flips up, and you have very, very easy access to change the blades. Sometimes that can be a time-consuming thing to just simply change a blade on a machine. And so the fact that if you're a new sawyer and that's something that would intimidate you, you have this head that can just sort of lift up, you change the blade out, no problem. One other feature, they're giving you this in a wide head model. It seems to come right out the bat like that. At the time being, at least in the promotion, it doesn't look like there's a standard head model available. So you're gonna get the wide head. What does that mean? Well, pretty much all Wood-Mizers, with the exception of their big industrial mills, cut a 36-inch diameter log, and then, depending on the type of mill that you have, the size of head that you have in the mill, it's going to tell you a maximum width of cut or slabbing cut that you can have. So on the LT15 battery-powered wide head, you can cut 35.5 inches across, That is a massive amount of capacity on a mill. You can cut a pretty big log, and that's a pretty sweet thing that you could get entry-level machine with that kind of cutting capacity. And then lastly, and there's a lot of things that I could list about this, about features and benefits, but one of the things is for a battery-powered mill, the batteries on this thing actually charge very, very fast. So approximately an hour per battery. So 4 hours for 4 batteries, 5 and 6 hours for 6 batteries is about the time they expect that it's going to take to charge the batteries on your mill. So guys, those are some of the features that come with that new LT15 battery-powered mill. I want to talk a little bit about some of the buzzwords that Wood-Mizer is using in their new ad campaign for this battery-powered mill. Words such as charging ahead, the future of sawmilling, smart feed, environmentally friendly, modern sawyer, reduce carbon emissions, freedom, more comfortable, leading edge, exceeds expectations, easy, convenient, optimal. Now guys, whenever you have a salesperson, and believe me, I am one, I've been one, there's always buzzwords that people are going to use to try to get you excited, because these words always carry more of a meaning behind them, or an intended meaning behind them, to try to engage the person who could be a potential buyer. That just makes all the sense that they're going to sort of jargon this up a little bit. They're going to try to use some buzz or exciting words to get you involved in the process. But the question always boils down to this. So, if you're charging ahead, what are you charging ahead to? If this is the future of sawmilling, well then what does that say about the expectations of where Wood-Mizer plans to go? Just some questions before we get too deep into that, but those are some of the advertising strategy and buzzwords that they're using to try to describe this mill. And already you're going to know, are you the type of customer that is going to be interested in a battery-powered mill or not? If you are, you probably know you are. If you're not, chances are you're going to have to be convinced. Let's talk about whether this is a good idea or a bad idea, a battery-powered sawmill. Well, obviously guys, one of the things you're going to see right off the bat, which is going to be a negative for this mill, is the cost. A brand new battery-powered mill, and I have it right here, you can see it, is going to run you $26,995. Guys, let's be honest about this now, okay? If money is the primary concern, this is not going to be the mill for you. Because you can get an LT15 wide gas-powered mill for literally half the price. Granted, you're not going to have all of the same features and benefits of the battery-powered mill. But if what you're looking for is a wide head mill that can cut wood, you can get a standard LT15 wide for literally half the price of the battery-powered mill. And so that's going to be a big hindrance. And let's just round up, $27,000 for a battery-powered mill. Well, what could you get at Wood-Mizer for about the same price? Well, for just a couple thousand more, you can get a fully hydraulic LT35 sawmill with a 25 horsepower Kohler engine. So just put that in perspective for a second. The cost, if that is your main issue, is going to be a big issue. You will never buy this mill because there's so many better options in that price range at Wood-Mizer already. All right, the second thing that we need to talk about is the power of the machine. So the 6 batteries, and you can run it off of 4 batteries, 5 batteries, or 6 batteries, interestingly enough. With 6 batteries, you're going to get a constant horsepower of about 10 horsepower. Unless, of course, you need more power, in which case it says it can put out a max horsepower of about 18.75. So same idea basically as a lithium-ion battery-powered drill, which is the same technology, lithium-ion, that drives the Wood-Mizer battery mill. So if you need more power, there's going to be more power available when you need it. But you're not going to be able to use that power constantly all the time. What's interesting about this is that they say one battery delivers 1.4 kilowatts of power. Well, 1.4 kilowatts conversion is about 1.87 horsepower, or if you want to round down, about 1 3/4. which means if you wanted the same power as a 25 horsepower Kohler that comes standard on the LT35, then you're going to need about 12 batteries. So you're going to have to double the battery capacity if you want the same 25 horsepower. But as we all know, it's not just about horsepower, is it? It's about torque. Because if you have a diesel engine, you could have a smaller horsepower diesel engine that has more torque than a gas engine that cuts just as well as the gas with more reported horsepower. And one thing I don't really have available to me right now is a hands-on experience with this 10 battery horsepower. Because we all know that electric cars have instant torque available. And I wonder if this mill isn't the same thing. Now, if that 10 horsepower is only 10 horsepower without insane torque delivery, then we're dealing with a real problem. And I'll tell you why. A standard 25 horsepower Kohler engine, let's say, would take 12 batteries to get the power equivalent, because a 1.4 kilowatt battery, like is in this Wood-Mizer, is about 1 3/4 to 1.87 horsepower equivalent. So with the 6 batteries, you're getting somewhere around 11 horsepower technically, which they rated as 10, but to get up to 25, you're going to need at least 12 or 13 batteries to get to a 25 horsepower equivalent. So if you don't have the torque, you're really going to have an underpowered mill. And the problem with that is that you have a wide head sawmill, and if somebody has a wide head sawmill, you know what they're going to try to do with it. They're going to find the biggest darn log that they possibly can, and they're going to try to slab that sucker 35 inches wide. Now let me tell you something. As a guy who's ran a big Kubota diesel, I can tell you that 25 inches can be a challenge with 35 horsepower. And so I can just imagine someone trying to cut something 35 inches wide with 10 horsepower of battery power. You are going to be there all day cutting through that log. I'm just telling you right now. Again, the disclaimer here is unless there is an insane amount of torque available with that battery power. But even so, the so-called 8 hours of battery runtime that you're going to get with those batteries, I mean, it's kind of like when Wood-Mizer advertises, oh, this mill can do 550 board feet an hour, and this one can do 650 board feet an hour. Yeah, but there's a million variables that go along with that. You might only cut 150 board foot an hour. If you're working by yourself, it doesn't matter which mill you have, right? Especially if you're cutting thin boards and not thick boards. And so there's a lot of variables there. And the 8 hours that is reported, I can guarantee you, if you are cutting super wide material, the power that you have is not going to be sufficient to cut that super wide. And not only that, you're going to drain your batteries almost immediately. I mean, anyone with any sort of battery-powered equipment understands this. But is the power there? That's the question that nobody knows right now until more of these hit the market and people have hands-on experiences with them. And one more thing about the batteries, and that has to do with deterioration of power over time. As we all know, you can never charge a battery all the way to 100%. And so within the course of time, it's exposed to cold, heat. Let's suppose you have the guy that leaves his batteries out there in the freezing cold all winter and deteriorates the batteries from the hot and the cold elements. He doesn't keep them stored inside. You're going to have deterioration of that battery. Batteries over the course of a few years can lose 25% or more of their available power over time. And so that mill is never going to be stronger than the very first time that you use it. What's it going to be like with constant use in 6 months or a year or 2 years? Again, we don't know yet. And so that has yet to be shown. We do know that, yeah, all engines eventually lose a little power, even gas, diesel engines with compression, so forth and so on. But certainly not to the extent where batteries will deteriorate over time. And so we'll see what happens with that over the course of time as we see people use these mill more and see what happens. A third point now that I want to make is this. That Wood-Mizer's customer base is almost entirely, including myself, blue-collar, hardworking people. Now, most of these kinds of people simply do not believe that we are saving the planet by using more electricity. So in my opinion, what Wood-Mizer is doing here is yet again, just like with their used to be $3,500 sawmills, which are now in the 4,000s, they're going after a really niche market, a particular type of buyer that is looking for something that is battery powered. Is this the same kind of person that has solar panels in their yard, that drives an electric vehicle? I don't know. Probably. A fourth point I want to make is this, and this really goes back to Wood-Mizer's advertising strategy on this sawmill, on this battery-powered mill, is this. One of the things that they say is that they are lowering carbon emissions. Well, look guys, a human being is the largest carbon emitter on the planet. And one of the problems I have about following this ideology is that if your tinfoil hat is as thick as mine, you don't want to go down that rabbit trail too far talking about carbon emissions. And I just, honestly, personally, I do not think it's a good idea when the Wood-Mizer bigwigs, the promotional people, advertising people, HR, whoever they are that all get in the room that start doing these advertising campaigns. I just don't think it's a good idea to market the product as environmentally friendly. Because most of the people who are going to be interested in an environmentally friendly approach or a carbon footprint approach are going to be the same people that think you're killing Mother Nature by cutting down trees. So for me, that just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. Because it's a completely different thought and ideology than probably most of the people who are going to be purchasing Wood-Mizer products. And my fifth point is this. You know, if this is a great product, which I'm sure it is, again, I'm a big time Wood-Mizer supporter. Obviously, it's going to be built to the same quality standards. It's going to go through lots of rigorous testing before it ever hits the market. And so as far as it being functional and excellent, I'm sure it will be. But here's the thing. If it's a great product, then simply market the product for its features, for its power, for what it can do for the consumer, and leave the green ideology out of it. Here's how you do it. You take this battery-powered mill, LT15 wide, and you take a standard gas-powered LT15 wide. You give them the same features, and then you give them the same species of logs to cut. And I'm not talking about cedar or pine or poplar even. I'm talking about, let's feed these things some white oak, some hickory, some hard maple, and then let's see how long that battery lasts compared to how long that gas one lasts. Cut for cut, stroke for stroke, labor for labor, and then let's see which one comes out ahead. I'm willing to bet you in 2 or 3 hours, cutting hardwoods, that battery-powered mill is dead as a doornail, and you're sitting there for the next 6 hours charging your batteries again while you're still on the same tank of gas on your gas-powered mill. I can almost guarantee it. But who knows? I could just be talking out of the backside, guys, but I don't think so. The sixth point that I have has to do with a feature that I think is really, really cool on this mill. And that is what they call a smart feed. What does the smart feed do? Well, it will change the feed speed based on the amount of available power in the cut. It is going to sense how much of a load is on that blade, and then it's going to change your feed speed to give you an ideal cut. Now guys, I can tell you as someone who's been sawing for quite a while, that one of the hardest things to master for any new sawyer is their feed speed. It's something that you only learn over sawing many, many different species in many, many different environments over many, many years. And even after many years, it remains to be that really finesse, fine touch that separates one really good sawyer from an average one. Is this here because it's a really cool new feature that is a groundbreaking technology? Or is this here because it has to be? Because on the one hand, you see it as a feature and a benefit. On the other hand, you can see it as a necessity. You see, a feature and a benefit is something that benefits the sawyer, helps them do a better job cutting lumber, makes it look cleaner, less skip, less dip, so forth and so on. But a necessity is something you have to have because if you didn't, you could destroy your mill. My question is what if you hit a nail or something really, really hard? I've had it where I've hit thick straps, bolts, bullets, even cannonballs. And what happens if your mill hits that? Will it just stop feeding all completely? You know, will it just stop? Or will it just slow the feed speed down? I'm sure those are all things that have been thought of, but I would be really interested to see what happens in density changes in the wood, because consistent feed speed is always what gives you the best cut. And if this mill is going to speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down, it would be interesting to see what kind of a cut you really get at the end of the day with that. The seventh point that I have, and I am starting to wrap it up here, has to do with one of the features of the operator station. And that is the way in which you power the machine. So if you look at the pictures that they show you, you have to have one hand at all times sitting on the power button in order to run the machine. Now that is a safety feature. You can't walk away from the machine, you can't run it and then, go around and do your own thing. Go have a cup of coffee, read a magazine while you're trying to cut wood. But it's also kind of annoying, because imagine having to sit there with your hand on that button all the time, having to run it. You know, I got a battery-powered chainsaw that is like this. If your hand is not on it all the time, the chainsaw just will turn off. Which, generally speaking, is good on a chainsaw. But on a sawmill, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty used to just flipping my switch, the blade's running, and then just controlling my feed. And then I can poke around, I can look around, and I honestly, once I have my feed speed down right, I can just walk away from the machine, and if the wood's good, it just cuts itself practically. But on this machine, you have to have your hand on the button at all times. And so, although it's a safety feature, and I get it, you need to engage the power somehow, it would be nice if they just had an auto-on power feature where you didn't have to have your hand on that button all the time. Now the last actual point I have, and this is the 8th point, is simply this. There is a phrase that they use in there that may bother some of us who have been in the business for a while, and that is this phrase, the future of sawmilling. Guys, I get it. Trying to be groundbreaking, trying to use buzzwords, trying to talk about all of this new technology as though everything else up to this point is just a thing of the past. And I understand something about the concept of time. We can only live in the present, we can only dwell in the past, and we can only dream of the future. I get that. But you know what the future of sawmilling is? Honestly, in today's world, in today's economy, the future of sawmilling is whoever is willing to get on a saw. That is the future. Doesn't matter if they have a gas-powered machine or a battery-powered machine or anything like that. The future of sawmilling is going to be those people who can continue to and are willing to work. We need to be raising up a generation of hardworking people with proper ethics and values that see the value of labor in their work. Short of that, it's not going to matter what kind of mill it is, if it's battery or gas or whatever. And so I would be a little bit hesitant, just being honest, to use the term the future of sawmilling. Wood-Mizer, you are the future. You make most of the portable mills on the planet currently. You are already the future. This technology, I mean, unless it advances to a point where it gets to be really, really incredible, I don't see the day where you ever see an LT40, LT70, a WM1000 running on battery power. It's just not going to happen right now. Now in 20, 30 years, who knows? Maybe there will be a groundbreaking technology that may actually be better. But for right now, the future is now. And the future needs to be training people who want to work, regardless of what the power delivery of the machine is. That's my final word on that 8th point. If you've watched this far, you are a real trooper. Please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate that. Also, like this video and check out all of my other videos on woodworking and sawmilling. Thank you for watching. God bless you guys. Till next time.